Today I'm really excited to share with you the entire process of how I created this drawing using charcoal and acrylic paint. And here are the supplies that I'll be using and demonstrating today, and they will also be in the description area below the video. In order to create this drawing, it really is a layering process. So I begin by establishing the outline of the French Bulldog on my wooden panel. And I will be demonstrating how I seal the charcoal onto the surface of the wooden panel. So if you wanted to use a stretch canvas or a canvas panel, that would also work very well. The point is that we're going to be sealing the charcoal to the canvas surface, and then we're going to be applying the acrylic paint. So right now I'm applying the charcoal using this sponge applicator tool, and I'm using powdered charcoal, and this is the initial layer of charcoal. It's important to also mention the surface preparation. I did apply 3 coats of gesso onto the surface of this wooden panel. It's important to have fresh gesso because it gives the charcoal something to adhere to. And I have 2 different videos on my channel that describe and explain and demonstrate how to create a really smooth gessoed surface, which is the perfect kind of surface when you are applying charcoal. I loosely block in the form using powdered charcoal, and I really like using a soft brush. You could also use a cotton pad to dust it gently onto the surface. This gives me a tonal foundation to build on and helps me work out the basic structure and proportions of the dog. I am now just defining some of the details of the drawing. It really is a layering process. So you'll see me apply charcoal using different tools. I'll be blending using different tools and then using different types of erasers to pull the charcoal back off the surface. And now I'm using vine charcoal. You can also use willow charcoal. This is just a really nice mid-tone charcoal color. And it's so easy to blend and it's so easy to erase. So it is the perfect charcoal to use in the very beginning stages. I now move on to using the blending stump. This stage is all about sculpting the form and finding the light. And the blending stump is the perfect tool to create the different shades that I want and start creating the depth in the drawing. As you can see, I'm really pushing the charcoal into the surface, but I'm not at all uneasy about this process because the real magic happens when I start bringing in the erasers and pulling out the highlights. And this is a back and forth process, as you will see me demonstrate. And you might notice I pull the kneaded eraser back into my hand, and I'm constantly reforming the kind of tip that I want. In this case, I want the tip to be kind of a pointy tip so I can get in there and really pull out the highlights in the finer detail areas. And then I can have it be more flat when I'm going into the body of the dog. To start building depth and contrast, I reach for my compressed charcoal pencils. I also use the charcoal sticks later on. These are much darker and give me the bold marks I need to anchor the drawing and also the finer details. I use them to define the shadows under the ears, under the chin, under the nose, and into the folds of the skin and the details of the eyes. Each type of charcoal I use does have a different tonal value, a different range. Range meaning how dark it will really go. And the compressed charcoal definitely is the deepest dark. And even in the compressed charcoal, there's different types that go even darker in value. For the fine details, like the glimmer in the eyes, the wrinkles around the mouth and nose, and the texture of the fur, I switch to compressed charcoal pencils. The charcoal pencils give me precision without losing that velvety richness that charcoal is known for. And now that my drawing is very well established, I apply 2 to 3 coats of workable fixative. The workable fixative really helps in giving this nice little bit of grit to the surface of the canvas, and it makes it very easy to continue layering the charcoal. I really like using these Tombow erasers. They have kind of a stiff surface and they're very efficient at erasing the charcoal. And now I dust off the particles of eraser that it leaves behind. There is something really wonderful about the black pen pastel. It blends so well with charcoal and it's really velvetly smooth. Charcoal has a little bit more grit, where the black pen pastel is kind of a velvety texture, and it has a nice deep rich tone. I really love how it interplays with the charcoal, how it blends with the charcoal. It really is a nice tool to use in your drawing. I always spend extra time on the eyes. That's where the life of the drawing lives. I want this little guy to have presence, like he could almost blink or bark at any second. You'll notice I'll pull this Tombow eraser off camera, and what I'm doing is I'm wiping the tip on a towel. I like to keep the tip fresh and white so that it pulls the maximum amount of charcoal off the drawing. At this point, I go back and forth, blending, lifting, darkening. It's a dance of pushing and pulling values until the drawing feels full of energy and form. Once I'm happy with the drawing, it's time to seal the canvas. I use a combination of isolation coat, which is an acrylic product, and water, and apply it using a fine misting spray bottle, and then I allow it to dry. I have a short video that I'll link below explaining the mixing process of the isolation coat. And now I'm going to apply some acrylic white paint using this round sponge. And I'll link this sponge and all the other supplies I used today in the description area below the video, just in case you want to check it out. And now I'm wiping some of it back using a paper towel, just to soften the edges. And I'm also emphasizing some of the highlights using my brush. And I know fully that this white paint, when it dries, won't be quite so bright, but it really is a fun way to accentuate the highlights and add energy to the drawing.